fabulous.
I don't have any starter or anything.
Yeah. Then you'll want to be preparing a starter. Give it time. So like plan like in a month to do your sourdough.
Yeah. For precaution, you could.
Oh yeah,
You could do that.
Definitely.
Good morning. Yeah. All right. So our plant today, and I have a lavender that with the rains has just gone bonkers in front of my house. And I was thinking all this week, get some of the lavender so you can bring it on Monday. And then my son was late getting to school and I have no lavender for you, but we have other lavender. I have lavender for you. I have lots of lavender for you. I just don't have that lavender. We'll talk about this spot, but when we see spot right here, this means that the various species of this genus are considered to be medicinal. So sometimes you want to really make sure, and you do here too, sometimes it makes a huge difference which species you're using, and sometimes the other species are unusable as medicine because they don't work, because they're toxic. And sometimes it doesn't matter, just pick one of these. With lavender, there are many different species and even more what we call cultivars, lavenders that have been selected for a particular way that it grows or color or fragrance. There's so many different cultivars, but we have a couple of different species and they have different effects. So it is important to know about those. So we'll go through those. But meanwhile, we are talking about most of the plants in the Lavandula genus. And it's in the family Lamiaceae. And so this is the mint family. So other members of this family, relatives of lavender, are plants like, you tell me, what are other mint family plants? Do you know?
Basil,
oregano.
olives.
Oh, yeah.
Yerba buena?
Yerba buena? No. There are different plants that are called yerba buena. This is one of the problems with common names, right? So yerba buena, you can imagine there's probably a lot of plants that are called yerba buena, especially regionally, because regionally for someone who just uses this, or an abuela who is like, this is yerba buena. So oftentimes it's used to refer to spearmint. But there is actually a plant called yerba buena, which is endemic to the San Francisco area, the Bay Area. In fact, that region used to be called Yerba Buena. San Francisco, its older name was Yerba Buena because of the abundance of Yerba Buena that grows there. It's a beautiful, delightful, aromatic. Oh my God, it's so beautiful. But it's not spearmint, and it's not a Lamiaceae, although when you see it growing, you would totally think it's a Lamiaceae, except I believe it has. I've tried to grow it here and I can't because this isn't Southern California. Hi, everyone. Hi. Motherwort spearmint. Yeah. Autocorrect. Mither. Good afternoon from Texas, Rosa. Yes, spearmint. Exactly, Rosa. Yes. Yeah. So spearmint is often called yerba buena. So yes, that is correct. Spearmint as yerba buena is Saturasia, which is the other one is not. And rosemary, and sages, all of the sages. So there are sometimes things that we know about a family that we can assume when we see other members of that family. We can say, there's going to be nuance using, the specifics. So there's, difference between lavender and yerba buena, for example, and mint. But there are certain characteristics that you can say, okay, if it's Lamiaceae, I know it's going to be this. And with the Lamiaceae, generally, one of the things with all of those that you noted, but not Tuco, not you, because you chose a different one, generally, Lamiaceae family plants are aromatic. Right? So they're going to have those fragrances. They're going to have a lot of essential oils. Motherwort, though, is one of them that is non-aromatic. So the aromatic ones oftentimes have dispersing effects, right? And actually even the non-aromatic, because I would say that this applies to motherwort. This applies to horehound is another one that's non-aromatic. Skullcap. The Lamiaceae family plants tend to disperse stagnation of some sort, right? So lemon balm disperses stagnation that we can see as kind of depression and anxiety, and peppermint for stagnation in the digestion, rosemary for stagnation in the circulation, right? So we can sort of think of that, and motherwort for stagnation in the heart and circulation as well, but it doesn't have that aromatic component. So generally aromatic, sometimes not, and often dispersing that stagnation. So we're going to do a different thing that we usually do because we have rosemary here. I want you to experience it as a steam inhalation, because a lot of the medicine of lavender, if I say rosemary, I'm lying. We're not doing rosemary, we're doing lavender. And if you have lavender, you should go make some tea and drink it along with this. But first we're going to do a steam. So I'm going to pour it into the bowls that I've set before you. And I want you to just stick your face over that bowl and breathe in the steam. Breathe it in through your nose so it comes up into the sinuses, and breathe it in through your mouth so you have it coming in and down into the lungs. So just do that. I thought about giving you like towels, but I didn't want to do the laundry, so no laundry. We're just doing this.
I know, yeah. Just like
There you go. Actually, that's a fine idea.
Just go ahead and do it.
Yeah, just go ahead and breathe it on in, and I
Jagged
would
it is.
use your sweaters. Yeah, grab all that good stuff. So oftentimes, when we do a steam, we often think of doing it with essential oils, and you can. Primarily we're using the essential oils right here. I wish I had my phone so that I could take a picture of y'all, because you look very funny and cute. It's hilarious. It's adorable. It's adorable is what it is. They're like, what are they doing? So getting that steam inhalation when you're breathing it through your nose, and that steam is coming up through the nasal concha. So when it comes right in through your nostrils and in, hi Leah, when it comes in through the nostrils and in around your sinuses, there's all of those mucous membranes are being activated by the warmth and the moisture and those essential oils. And we get some absorption through the mucosa, but we also have those aromatic compounds are going all the way up into the olfactory bulb, and this area that can transmit information just straight up into our nervous system, into our central nervous system, into our brain. So we have neurological effects and physiological effects from the presence of the essential oils. Studies have shown that when you're breathing in this fragrance, they see changes in heart rate and blood pressure and breathing patterns, brainwave states. There are significant physiological changes from the presence of those aromatic compounds. So we're not even drinking it in, we're just inhaling those aromatics. And there's significant benefit. There's a reason why people love using the essential oils of lavender. But you don't have to use essential oils. You can also use just a tea, right? You can do this with your cup of tea before you drink it, having those aromatics come in. Did give you some rosemary after this so we can wake you back up again. I did. That was a minor concern today. Was I'm going to make people fall asleep. It was only a minor concern, and it didn't stop me, obviously. But doing inhalations like that is really nice to stop and get all of the information from the plant coming in. One of the other cool things about these studies on the therapeutic effects of the aromatics of plants is that they see these physiological changes before people can identify the scent in their environment. So when they're doing these studies, before the people can say, oh yes, I smell lavender, they're noticing a change in the breathing pattern. They're noticing these physiological changes. The amount of aromatic compounds that is needed to have a change in our physiology is way lower than we think it is. And that's worth remembering when we are using essential oils, because we don't have to be blasting people with them. We don't have to be blasting ourselves with them. You can really induce a lot of sensitivity to essential oils and aromatics. And it's unnecessary. And whole plant medicine gives a much wider range of the chemistry of the plant than just the essential oil. So this is the second thing to understand, is when you are inhaling that essential oil, when you're breathing that in, when you're using an essential oil, you are only getting part of the plant medicine. Sometimes it's a really important part of the plant medicine. Sometimes it's a large part, and sometimes it's a little part, because plant chemistry is complex. But there's a lot of the chemistry of plants that cannot be carried by steam. Steam is only able to carry very low molecular weight compounds, and any chemical compounds over a molecular weight of about 350 will not be carried by steam. Cannot be carried by steam because it's too heavy. It's like a fly trying to carry a brick. It's just going to plummet. It's not going to happen. But the water can carry it. Water can extract it and hold it. But the steam and those aromatics, very limited part of the chemistry of the plants. So when we drink the tea, we're getting different chemistry. So we will also want to have that in mind. I think we were talking about this the other day in class, that a lot of the information sometimes it's available about plants, available about essential oils, will extrapolate from plants, right? So this is how the plant acts, therefore this is how the essential oil plant acts, and that's not true, because the essential oil is a refined part of the plant. It only represents a part of the medicine. All right, so here we have the whole plant. So you know what it smells like, you know what happens when you breathe it in, but we do always want to kind of introduce our cup of tea to ourselves and just kind of breathe that in. And we always want to ask ourselves, does that steam carry medicine for us, right? For some plants, it doesn't. If we were doing this with motherwort steam really doesn't carry medicine, because the chemistry of motherwort is large and complex molecules that are too heavy to be carried by steam. But lavender definitely does.
Is this different than this?
Nope, exactly the same. Nope. Another thing that's kind of interesting to do is when you breathe in something and you assess for information there, then when you taste it, you want to ask, does what I taste agree with what I smelled, right? Sometimes you smell something, you taste it, and it's like, yep, that is exactly what I smelled. And sometimes you'll smell something and you taste it, and it's like, that is absolutely not what I smelled, right? And so that is kind of a lot of evidence of that complex chemistry that is not being carried by the steam. We can't sense that until we taste it. So if you taste it, take it in and then hold it in your mouth. We want to feel what the liquid does to the tissues of the mouth, if there's any changes in how the tissues feel. We want to roll it around our tongue and taste all of the flavors, breathe it in and breathe in the aromatics, and just kind of sit with it. As we swallow it down, we want to follow where it goes in the body, right? What parts of our body are kind of activated, or kind of making themselves known, or waking up, or quieting down, right? So just kind of sit with it for a minute or so. I'm going to shut up and let you experience your tea. Okay, so What do you think about that flavor? What does the flavor remind you of? Without saying lavender.
I know, it's so relaxing.
Yeah. But I also, like, I feel like, sorry, I say the question again.
What does it make you, what does the flavor make you think of? Or how would you describe the flavor?
It has a coolness.
Mm-hmm.
It has I can really taste the mint relation.
Right.
It feels really pungent, bright,
Mm-hmm.
but super relaxing. And it's not tannic. Like, was it comfrey we did that was tan or yarrow?
No, yarrow.
Yarrow. And
Yeah.
I really felt that. This feels really soft.
Yeah. It isn't really so. Number one, as a caveat, I generally like to make teas strong so you can really get a sense of it. I am not a fan of strong lavender tea. I hate lavender tea.
Is this strong?
Unless, no, this is a very mild one. Because this is very pleasant,
Really?
right? It's very, very nice. Lavender is one of those that it's very easy to go too much, and all of a sudden it gets very, very, so there's some bitterness here, right? But it's balanced by all of the aromatics.
I was gonna say, it's not too bitter.
Yeah, it is absolutely if you make it strong. If you make it strong, it is very bitter. Yeah. Which is, as a nice tea, it's very nice. So it is bitter. It's also quite soapy, very, very soapy. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of the key flavors to it, is that soapiness, because it contains saponins. That's part of the chemistry of lavender. In fact, that may be related to, plus the fragrance, to its root word, which means to wash, to clean. So often associated with cleansing our body, our environment. And it is perfumey, exactly, to go. It is also very perfumey, so it's got that floral quality to it, right? That very good way of identifying without using the term lavender. But yeah, that floral perfume quality. The bitter quality does speak to part of its traditional usage. So we can use lavender. So we'll start at the beginning. Primary use of lavender, what do you think it is? And now we're talking as the whole herb. How does it feel to your body? What's kind of going on in there?
I'm feeling like I can breathe deeper.
Mm-hmm.
My initial taste, I felt like I was salivating, like I felt hydration, and now as it's settling, I'm also kind of feeling a little bit dry. That's what I'm experiencing. Yeah. So breathing more deeply, and had some increased salivation, and now experiencing some astringency and dryness.
I'm getting that too on my tongue.
Yeah. And that astringency would certainly be stronger if I had steeped it. Now, the Lamiaceae family plants generally tend to be pretty rich in flavonoids, and specifically in tannins. So, and that's that astringent feeling that you're feeling, right? So tannins bind with proteins. The proteins on the surface of tissues are, especially mucous membranes, are particularly susceptible to tannins. So when we drink tannin-rich plants as green tea or black tea or yarrow, lavender, we're going to feel that protein, the tannins binding to the proteins in our mouth and causing that astringency. When we use them topically, they astringe, the tissues tighten and firm, right? So they tighten and firm, reduce inflammation, reduce irritation. They are generally considered to be relatively cooling to tissues. So, so we can think of that as part of the therapeutic effects of lavender tannins, and the larger chemistry of tannins as flavonoids. at improving structural integrity of tissues. When we apply lavender topically, and we can feel that in our mouth, and we could feel it all throughout our gastrointestinal tract if we drank a larger amount of that high amount of tannins in there is going to be astringing and tightening and firming and making it very appropriate for any kind of irritation and inflammation of the gastrointestinal tract. So esophageal irritation, ulcers, diverticulitis, any kind of inflammation along there. And with the aromatics give it a very strong antispasmodic effect. So this is another quality of lavender, is an antispasmodic, and it has that. So when we talk about antispasmodic, relieving spasm or constriction of tissues, constriction of muscular tissues. So it helps to relax skeletal muscles. Sometimes after we're drinking lavender tea, we can kind of notice a dropping in our shoulders and kind of that more deep breathing as kind of the other muscles all kind of relax and we settle in. So it's relaxing to the skeletal muscles. It's also relaxing to smooth muscles. So we have a couple of different types of muscle in our body. Skeletal muscles are those that are, under our control, we can move. And then the smooth muscles are the muscles that are under control of our autonomic nervous system. And that's the muscles of our blood vessels and bronchioles, our uterus and intestines and bladder, all of what are called the hollow organs, right? The hollow organs, the stomach, all of those are banded by smooth muscle. So when we have spasticity of smooth muscles, or whether we have spasticity of skeletal muscles, lavender is very, very beneficial for that. So sometimes plants will have more of a specificity as to which type of muscle that they work on. Lavender works on both of those. So it's very nice for relaxing the body, and its ability to release the skeletal muscles also makes it particularly beneficial for tension headaches. Tension headaches. This is a specific plant for headaches. I think of lavender, it's one of the primary reasons why I use lavender in a tea form, is for headaches, again, particularly when there is tension. The heart is cardiac muscle. So that's the third type of muscle tissue. 10 points to you for naming that third type of muscle. So cardiac muscle is the third type of muscle. So we have skeletal muscles, smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. And I don't think of lavender being as specific to cardiac muscle. But, it's muscle tissue. I could be wrong about that. But yes, very good. So relaxing those. It is also a nervine, relaxing the nervous system. So antispasmodic specifically refers to muscles, but as a nervine, as a relaxant nervine, it relaxes our nervous system. That's why you're feeling sleepy. So that relaxing effect on the nervous system makes it very beneficial for anxiety, for insomnia, for other reasons for headaches, right? So that antispasmodic effect is going to be specific for tension headaches, but there's a lot of different reasons why we get headaches, a lot of different reasons why we have an increased sensitivity to pain or reactivity to pain. And lavender's very effective for relieving neuralgia, pain of the nerves, and myalgia, pain of the muscles, all of the algias, arthralgia, pain of the joints, right? So all of the algias generally tend to respond to lavender. So very good for a wide range of different pain disorders, but particularly that headaches is really where it shines. My favorite combination of lavender for headaches is lavender and wood betony, also one of my go-to plants for headaches. Wood betony is outstanding for headaches. And feverfew. Lavender, wood betony, and feverfew in equal amounts is a very nice tea or tincture to use for generalized headaches and generalized pain. Also, lavender and wood betony is a very good combination for nightmares. Wood betony is specific for nightmares, for quieting down when your brain is just too active and you want to shut that down. And you could throw some passion flower in there too. Okay, so going back to the smooth muscle relaxation, we can use it for conditions like asthmatic kind of constriction, breathing in that steam, but also drinking the tea. And it is particularly beneficial for spasticity, cramping in the intestinal tract. So that combined with when we make it in a stronger a concentrated form, particularly if we made it as a tincture, for example, in an alcohol extract, it is a very effective bitter. So bitters are used to transmit that bitter flavor over the taste buds, and by activating those bitter receptors in our taste buds, that activates digestion, activates liver function, activates pancreatic function. All of the gastric juices are increased in the presence of bitters. This may also be why you were salivating more, because saliva is also one of the gastric juices. And so when we have bitters, we increase that saliva production, and then we also can have that astringency from the tannins. So you get both that increased moisture and also the tannic response. Cynthia, hi Cynthia. Do I carry wood betony? We do have wood betony here. Yeah, we go through a lot of wood betony because all of us, Leah, Ricard, and I, we love wood betony. It was a plant, it comes from European traditions, and it was a plant that was sacred to Druids. That comes from that kind of tradition in that region. That also being my cultural, my ancestral tradition also makes it kind of fun for me to play with, especially since I don't live in that area. Let's see. So the tannins, the flavonoids, the essential oils, besides being nervine and calming and relaxing to the body, are also very strongly antimicrobial, very strongly antifungal. So you can really use lavender extracted in as a tea, as a strong tea, as a tincture, as a vinegar extract. Lavender vinegar is very, very, very good for fungal infections, particularly since vinegar is very good for fungal infections. Vinegar drops the pH of the skin down, and that makes for a hostile environment for a wide range of pathogens, but particularly for funguses. And so the combination of the essential oil in the lavender, the tannins, which are astringing and tightening and firming and making the tissue more able to heal and just kind of make itself a more effective barrier when you have pathogens that have kind of disrupted the barrier function of the skin, and the essential oils for reducing that inflammation. But again, with something like lavender, which has up to 1.5% volatile oil content, which is very, very high, you don't always need to use the essential oil. You can use the whole plant. And if you have the essential oils, you're not getting any of the flavonoid chemistry. You're also not getting any of the caffeic acids. So the caffeic acid derivatives, rosmarinic acid is a very strong antiviral compound. It is a neurological support agent. It's found in higher amounts in other members of the Lamiaceae family. It's highest in rosemary and lavender, and lemon balm, and sage and tulsi, but it's in lavender. And so that the caffeic acid derivatives have strong therapeutic effects as well. So we have a wide range of activity in lavender. Let's talk about the different species of lavender available. So we are using
Because she said rosemary.
I did say rosemary, yes. So angustifolia, what we're using is the English lavender. That's one of the primary lavenders of commerce. And the English lavender has a really nice combination of essential oils to it. Now, I am not an aromatherapist. And if you talk about an aromatherapist with some of the information that I'm going into, they're going to go much more into detail because that is their training. And I'm not an aromatherapist. So just let me preface that with that information. If you are an aromatherapist and you want to chime in, then please do, absolutely. So the angustifolia is the primary one used as an herb, as a whole plant herb. We also have spike lavender is spicata. Now, spike lavender is one that you often see in nurseries. All of this is really important if you're choosing a lavender plant to put into your garden, because there's a lot of different ones here. And I do see a lot of the spike lavender in nurseries, and spike lavender has a higher amount of. So you were saying you tasted that sort of that peppermint flavor, that mint relationship with lavender, because it is a relative and we're going to have that crossover in the essential oils. And one of the compounds that we do see in lavender, the essential oil primarily has other compounds, but you'll find some menthol in there, and you can kind of feel it. If you drink the tea and then sort of breathe in, you have that kind of cool feeling on the tissues, because that's what menthol does. But it's going to be pretty low in the mix, right? It's there, but it's just kind of a hint of it, right? In the spike lavender and in some of the other species of lavender, you're going to have menthol and also camphor. So a camphor, this makes the plant smell much more medicinal, not so much floral, and much more medicinal. These compounds make the lavenders that are rich in them somewhat toxic. So we don't want to be using these as a tea. We don't want to be using them internally for long periods of time. Externally, they're fine. For use aromatherapeutically, depends on what you're using them for, but generally they would be more appropriate for short-term use. So if you are looking for a lavender plant in a nursery that you want to plant and grow, you really want to smell it and make sure you have more of that floral quality there, because you do want to minimize these. There are therapeutic effects here, but I generally like to go to plants that are richer in those for those effects. And then we also have the French lavender is Lavender stoicus. I believe I spelled that correctly. That's that French lavender, and that one also can have really variable quality and also can have a lot of those. A lot of other hybrids, again, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different cultivars of lavender, but generally you're going to see it as the angustifolia species is going to be the primary one used medicinally, and in most clinical studies you're going to have that one used. So the antimicrobial and astringent qualities of lavender also make it one of our primary plants that we can use for first aid. So oftentimes we tend to go to plants like and oils like tea tree, right, or the medicinal smelling plants as being, those are the really strong ones. But lavender has very, very strong antimicrobial effects topically, and again, as a whole plant. So generally for first aid use as a compress, infused into oil and made as an infused oil or balm, almost any first aid application, it's going to be very effective. It's a great plant also because it's widely used in a lot of different solvents. So sometimes we have plants, and we've talked about it here, where the application of the plant is very, very narrow, right? We can only use it in a water extraction. We can only use it in an oil extraction. It has to be made in this form. But lavender is a very complex and widely available plant, and we can use it in almost every type of plant medicine. One of the other ways that I do like to use it is I totally forgot that I asked you to do this, and then I just looked over and remembered, oh, we have this. This is lavender glyceride. And so I do like lavender as a glyceride. So a glyceride is a glycerin extract of lavender using not alcohol, but glycerin to extract. When we taste tinctures in class, generally going to put a couple of drops right here in between the webbing in between our forefinger and thumb. It's a nice place to put tinctures and then lick them off because it tends to be clean. It tends to not get in contact with stuff. And what we're not doing is we're putting it over our mouth and breathing on it and sharing cooties because I love y'all, but I don't love you that much. So this is one of the ways that we can use lavender also internally as well as topically. Now we still have a lot of that bitterness. We have that soapiness. We can taste the complex chemistry of lavender in there. It hasn't taken any of that out, but it's concentrated it. So you can use lavender in an extract like that or in an alcohol extract. And the benefit of that is that you can, pop that in your pocket, in your backpack, and just whenever you need your lavender, you can just grab that and toss it in your mouth. So I do like the glycerin also kind of offsets a little bit. The sweetness of glycerin offsets the funky taste of the lavender there.
I taste the menthol in that.
Yeah.
A lot.
Whoa.
Yeah. It definitely concentrates. I know, isn't it amazing? And that was just a couple of drops.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a very good way of concentrating those things down. So I have some clinical research here that I thought was kind of fun. Agitated behavior using lavender in nursing homes for people with dementia. And I actually saw this with my mother-in-law, who we lost a couple of years ago, but she was in a care facility, and they had aromatherapist who would come through a couple of times a week and give treatments to the people who lived there, which was really nice. And I would see, it was pretty amazing when I would take her down to the room where they were doing that. And you could see these people, this large group of people who were, many of them were very agitated and were very, they couldn't sit still and they were moving around and sometimes vocalizing and all of that. And they would the women who did this were so wonderful, and they would just kind of have it available. And slowly, again, remembering that the physiological effects happen before we were able to perceive them, right? So they would just kind of open up their things and just kind of start creating these blends, and you could just see the energy just kind of go, oh, it's very, very nice. Very nice. Depression, lavender being used, this is as whole plant, as an adjunct to prescription antidepressant medications. One of the benefits of using lavender is it doesn't seem to have interactions with other medications. Many plants that work on mood do, and you want to be cautious with using them, co-administering with medications. But lavender does not have that type of chemistry and seems to be very nice. Using it also as aromatherapy, using it in a workplace environment. Even with when people were working over extended periods of time, it helped to increase kind of focus and clarity, even when there was physical fatigue and exertion. So though it has a calming effect and a sedating effect on the body and a sedating effect on the mind, it has the ability to increase that clarity and focus, which is a really nice combination. Now that is again for the inhaled scent, drinking it as a tea, because you are getting that muscle relaxing effect and that nerve relaxing effect. It does have a significantly stronger sedating effect when you're taking it as a tea. So you may not have that. And then pain relief, we've already talked about that. And so we have some recipes here, a wide range of recipes, some ideas for some teas, and cookies. So yeah, and I can give you the recipes for next week's class if you want to bake something before class and bring it in with you if you want to do that.
I've already,
I was somewhat kidding there. Only we had with my apprentices, we had last month. No, it was earlier this month. Whoa, time. The class this month. One of my apprentices lives up in Wrightwood, up in the mountains, and she still has a lot of nettles going right now. So generally down here where I grow nettles, they've mostly just kind of gotten old because it's hotter and more sun, but she still has a bunch. She made nettle and lemon cupcakes with frosting, and they were deep green, kind of like I was thinking about your matcha cookies. Yes, they were the deep green color. They were so delicious, and then this little cream cheese frosting on them. Ooh, they were so good. I am thinking about those. Yeah, so it's fun. It's fun using plants that way. Okay, so that's lavender. Next week, I looked it up so that I could announce it. Is it nettle?
I think so.
I think
Yes.
it's nettle.
Yeah.
That might be why nettle came into my brain. Now I'm wondering about that now. I'm like, is it nettle or am I just thinking about nettle because we were talking about cupcakes and now I want cupcakes? I think it's nettle.
Nettle root over there.
Oh yeah, no, that was from a class.
The only fourth is nettle.
There you go. Thank you very much for looking at that. Yeah. So next week is nettle. So we will have. I'm hoping I do still have some nettle in my garden in a little back corner, and I'm hoping that stays so that we have some fresh nettle, and I can bring that in so you can experience fresh nettle because.
Is that the same?
Yes.
Remember didn't we do nettles like a couple months ago? And you brought a bunch in?
Yes, so it was an unexpected one. I didn't do a whole class on nettle, but we were doing processing of nettle, making the tincture because in my garden, that was right after the first big flush of rains, and I had all of the nettle came up. So yes, in class I said, okay, we're not doing the class that we're not doing. I don't remember what the plant was that day, but it's like, you're going to learn how to garble nettles, and you're going to learn how to make a nettles. Same plant, yes, yeah, from a different area because those nettles are gone from that area. But over in the corner, we have a little protected area where we still have some. So, but yes, it'll be from that same garden. So we'll actually learn about the use of nettles. So we'll see you then. Thanks so much for joining us, folks. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.